but there are 24 delegates up there for grabs on Tuesday. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. Let me ask you this question. Where do you think that you can win on Tuesday night?
Well, my measurement of winning is, winning most of the majority of the delegates. And in that case, we have about 3 states that we've already concluded that we may well win. And so next week here in Alaska, there's a very good chance we'll come out with a majority of the delegates in Idaho as well as North Dakota.
Congressman, let me ask you this question, and I mean this as a serious question, and I mean it with respect. Are you in this to the end? Do you really think you could actually win the nomination, or is there a different purpose in your campaign and in your running?
Yeah, I've answered this question, a few times, and I don't know why there has to be an either-or. Matter of fact, if you're in a race to make a point or, to promote a cause, the best way to do that is to win. So by the fact that I won 12 times in Congress and got the people of that district to understand what true liberty is about and what a strict constitutional does and, argue the case of sound money and a different type of foreign policy. So by my winning those elections was very, very beneficial to promoting that cause. So it doesn't bother me. Do I believe I can win? Yes. Do I believe the chances are slim? Yes, I do. But things happen in this world that we don't have total control of. And we live in a world that's very much in flux, internationally and monetarily, that just might make the circumstances different. But I understand your question, but I think it should never be considered an either-or issue.
But I do take it from what you're just telling me this morning that your main purpose here is to make a point, to underline why you think the libertarian point of view is the way to go. So I take it what you're trying to do here is strengthen libertarians rather than your main objective being to win the nomination.
Well, no, I said something different. I said both are mutual. But I think what bothers so many people who seem to be in a quandary over this is that they run into so few people who are in it for something other than just gaining power. See, I see what's happening in Washington, Republicans and Democrats. Everything is spent on gaining power because I don't see the difference in the foreign policy. Nothing changes, with the overseas adventurism. Nothing changes with the monetary policy. Nothing changes with the deficits. Nobody seems to care about personal liberties. So when you run into somebody, it gets confusing. You say, well, he cares a whole lot about the issues. He can't care about his power. No, I don't care about power, but I care about influence, and the best way you can influence a nation and move a nation is by translating this into political action that is successful. So believe me, the people who come and support me are very, very determined to win.
Were you a little bit surprised last week when Rick Santorum said he thought you were just in this because you were in cahoots with Mitt Romney? And some have suggested that what you're trying to do here is create a situation where Romney might ask your son, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, to be his running mate. What did you make of that?
Well, it sounds like he's trying to concoct a conspiracy, so I didn't know he was into the conspiracy business. Now, I think that's all created, but I think the media is fed on that because, they keep saying, is there a deal, is there a deal? And obviously not. He wouldn't do it, I wouldn't do it. And I think that's just Santorum trying to talk about something, and he didn't have any issues to attack me on, so he had to go after me on something as silly as that.
This whole thing that the people down here in the lower 48 are talking about this morning, this fact that Rush Limbaugh apologized for calling the young woman from Georgetown who testified before Congress a prostitute because she testified in favor of government health care plans paying for birth control pills. He has apologized. Number one, what do you think about the fact that he apologized? And number two, does it kind of bother you when the campaign kind of wanders off into these social issues?
Well, yeah, but I don't consider that strictly a social issue. I think he should have apologized. I had said he used very crude language, and I think he gets over the top at times. So, but it's in his best interest. That's why he did it. I don't think he's very apologetic. He's doing it because some people were taking their advertisements off his program. It was his bottom line that was concerned about. Now, I don't see this. I think when Santorum talks about birth control, he doesn't believe people should have birth control. He gets off into social issues. I, as an OB doctor, certainly endorse the whole idea of birth control. But this is something different. This is philosophically and politically important because does the government have a mandate to tell insurance what to give? So they're saying that insurance companies should give everybody free birth control pills. That strikes me as rather odd. What does that mean? That means that somebody who doesn't need birth control pills and they find that using birth control pill is an offense to them, they have to pay for the birth control pills to give somebody free birth control pills to be used. I don't see how anybody should accept that. I mean, when I first started buying medical insurance, you had a choice on whether you should have OB care or not. Why should somebody who's not going to have a baby be forced to pay for the OB care of a younger person? That's total destruction of the marketplace. It's this mandate. This is this obsession, you know, with Obama on mandating. Of course, the Republicans aren't a whole lot better on this either. But the market deals with these problems differently. There would never be a discussion like this. Who is going to be forced to pay for birth control pills? And since it's so closely related to abortion, it's the same principle. Why should we force people who are strongly right to life to pay money for doing abortion? And Planned Parenthood does that. And of course, it's ironic that Santorum actually funded Planned Parenthood, and he pretends to be the champion of social values. That, to me, is rather bizarre, and that's why I call him a fake conservative.
All right. Well, Congressman, it's always good to talk to you, and thanks again for getting up so early.
Is this dude serious? Fiscal conservative? Really? Santorum voted to raise the debt ceiling 5 times, doubled the size of the Department of Education, then supported the biggest entitlement expansion since the 60s. Not Ruby. Santorum voted to send billions of our tax dollars to dictators in North Korea and Egypt, and even hooked Planned Parenthood up with a few million bucks. Rick Santorum, a fiscal conservative? Fake.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.
Well, you've heard about football teams, baseball teams. Well, how about just truth teams, the brains behind President Obama's re-election campaign? They're working to recruit roughly 2 million supporters to respond to Republican attacks against the president. My next guest is a Republican who has no problem criticizing the president. He says the facts are with him anyway. Republican Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, what do you make of these truth squads?
I've been waiting so long to hear the truth, so I guess I'm supposed to be reassured. 2 million people rounded up to tell me what the truth is. Sounds more to me like maybe a propaganda team or a propaganda squad is going to go out and give us the spin and do nothing more than more politicking is the way I see it.
But I think what they're trying to do, Congressman, is that, and you're very good on the airwaves with your ads. They're very quick. They're rapid fire. Those on the receiving end of them, not big fans. But doing the same to the president, I think it's, the idea is a same day, if not a same hour response. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, you can poke fun at it like I am because it does sound silly on the surface. But, you know, politics is a messy business, and we're both on the receiving end and the delivering end, and you try to compensate, and sometimes we don't always think we get a fair shot in the reporting by the various media outlets. So I think that's all what politics is about. But all of a sudden to call it the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, that's probably a little bit more than I think it is.
Speaking of trying to get to the truth on something, a lot of your folks feel that the Maine caucuses were stolen from you, that you would have had it won, but that the Romney campaign conspired with the Maine state GOP to suppress your vote in the state. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Well, I don't have any facts on that. There's just a lot of suspicion because last go-around in 2008, the only county that I won handedly was this Washington County up in the far north.
Right.
And it's just sort of ironic. It does raise questions why on the morning of the vote it was canceled. They weren't going to have it. They're going to have it later. But the other thing is so strange is that even when they vote, they don't count. They count toward delegates, which is what we care about ultimately, but you still care about the PR. You know, you get bragging rights if you come in a few points ahead. But even if we pick it up and win by 10, 20 votes, it won't happen like it did in Iowa. They said, oh, we made a mistake, we counted the votes. But this isn't just recounting. This is just allowing people to finish their voting. So, yeah, I think there's reason to raise questions about it. I'd like to know the real truth of it. I don't know how these things come about, but certainly it raises questions. You know, if it had been in another district, I think less questions would have been raised. But this was the county that everybody knew we had the most support.
Well, are you saying, sir, that the vote there was suppressed, not allowed, both? What?
Well, they didn't have the caucus. They, you know, at the time they were supposed to arrive like 8 o'clock. I don't know when the announcement came.
It was canceled.
Yeah, but the party canceled it for that day. But they're allowed to hold this caucus next week or so. But when they made that announcement of who won the caucus vote, they said even when we hold the vote next week, we are not going to add them up and report back that there's going to be a different winner of the straw vote.
So it wouldn't be like Iowa when they recounted or reaffirmed or whatever they called it, that in that case Rick Santorum emerged the victor, not Mitt Romney as was originally thought.
Yeah, that is the case. It won't have it because he made it very explicit. But this would even been more justified before it was a recount and they announced it. In this case, they haven't even had a chance to vote. And I think there are several other precincts, you know, not just the one up in the north that we were so interested in.
No, they are pointing to a couple of them. The Romney folks saying this is silly, it's not true. But nevertheless, you have not yet won a contest. Right. The others have. You've been racking up delegates along the way, and you've been impressive overall. But you need a W, right? You need a win.
Yeah. Well, let's say that ultimately, within a month or so, we think we are going to win the delegates. So, I mean, that's the win that counts even more so than the straw vote. But you're right. I mean, PR-wise, it'd be great to come out some evening and say, you know, we won the straw vote. And in some of the other races where you win the straw vote, you might not win the delegates anyway.
Right,
so,
that's true.
That's what we're going to keep working on. And so far, we have been starting the accumulation. But nobody really knows. You see on TV all the time the announcement, so-and-so has so many delegates. There are very few that are absolutely firm because they have, even the ones we suppose we can guess. It's going to take a couple of months yet to find out who got the delegates.
Thank you, Congressman. Good seeing you again.
Thank you, Neil.
I'm delighted to be able to give you one last message before you vote in the caucus. I'm interested very much in getting your support. Nevada is a freedom-loving state. They believe in civil liberties and personal liberties. Well, we need to cut $1 trillion, you know, in the first year. But you have to change. We all have to change our attitude of what the role of government should be. And the role of government shouldn't be to run the welfare state and also to police the world. We're in desperate trouble here. We should be spending that money back here at home. But also you'd have to get rid of some departments. I have 5 departments I would remove. But I have exempted a few areas, at least for the beginning, that we shouldn't be doing this by slashing Social Security or health care benefits.
Yeah, we're very excited. There are just a lot of people that love Ron Paul, and they see him as almost an impossible figure. People after Watergate wanted honesty, and now they want someone who's incorruptible. There's corruption with Wall Street. There's corruption with K Street and the lobbyists. And here comes this country doctor from Texas, won't take a bribe, won't touch the lobbyist money, votes against any pay raises, won't take his congressional pension, gives back much of his money allocated as a congressman. You can't believe a figure like this. He's incorruptible, and that's what people are looking for right now, someone who's not gaming the system.
We have this very unusual and unique form of financing our houses, which has caused tremendous inflation in our housing prices through the financing of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which in some ways the Fed participates. Just because low interest rates might help the stock market and might help the housing market doesn't seem to me to be fair to the elderly who have saved their money, suffer from the inflation that still exists, at the same time